The most dangerous creature is a woman who know how to think.
No drama. We're good.
I don't belong here.
Maybe if you learned a thing or two, you'd never be stressed again.
Do you like this?
Who knows what'll happen?
What is going on in here?
That's the whole story.
Jason Bourne.
Every day's an adventure.
Hello, hello, and welcome back to Showrunners Sessions Writing Comedy presented by HBO Max. Yeah, give it up. Let's get loud. I'm very honored to introduce our moderator for today. He's a writer, show creator, executive producer, host, podcaster, and #1 Laker fan, Larry Wilmore.
How's everybody doing? I can't even see everybody. I think this feels right. Should I be in the middle? What do you think? Yeah, do it like that. Okay, you guys are very helpful. I appreciate this. Are you guys with mask or without? Oh, I guess I'll stay. Very nice. Are you okay with the COVID stuff? Okay, good. Oh, you've all been tested. It's getting better and better. This is really nice. Well, thanks for having us here. We have such a talented group of showrunners and writers here from so many great shows, and I will bring them out one at a time. From the brilliant show Hacks, Mr. Paul W. Downs is coming out right now. Very funny show. Very good. Choose any seat, Paul.
I'll take this one.
Excellent. For the very funny show, the other two, now on HBO Max, Chris Kelly. Good. There he is. We're going to white balance the show, Chris, so it's cool. It's a joke. You'll see. Also, from Insecure, my buddy, Prentice Penny. Yeah. I'm always watching to see what Prentice is wearing, because he's always... No, it's amazing. You always look amazing. Yeah. And from Black Lady Sketch Show, the one and only Lauren Ashley Smith. And last but certainly not least, from the classic, this show was an instant classic, Jeff Schafer from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Instant. There he is. Thanks so much for being here, guys. And I want to congratulate you again. All of the shows are so amazing. Guys, one more round of applause for all of the shows. They're also inventive and cinematic and funny and surprising. They make you cry. Right? I was just thinking of a scene right now, actually. But we've had this huge intervention in show running and writing lately into the pandemic. So I wanted to ask all of you, how has the pandemic affecting your show? And since, Jeff, you've been doing yours the longest from Curb, you really know the difference between pre-pandemic and pandemic. And your third season just came out, right? I mean, yeah, your third season. Your latest season just came out.
Latest season, yeah.
Right.
This is season 11, but it's taken 20 years. We're like the...
It feels like the third.
Yeah, we're like the kid that took 9 years to graduate from college. It's not a mark of excellence. No, I mean, the biggest difference is, I mean, we're all on location, right?
Right.
So, you know, the first thing is, like, who's going to, I was talking to you guys, who's going to let us do this?
Right.
Who's literally going to let people, like, you know how locations are. It's like 10 people show up at a house, and these are nice houses. These are well-to-do people. These are successful people, and we're knocking on the door going, hey, here's 10 of us. You don't know us. There's no vaccines. It's October, November. We all may have COVID. You don't know. Anyway, we want to come into your house and touch everything. But here's the good news. If we like this place. I'm going to come back with 100 people. We're going to sit on all your stuff, touch all your things, and we're going to be here for a long time. And they said they were fine, which is crazy. That's weird. I think the weirdest thing, and I want to hear the other people for comedy, is how can you be as funny as you need to be when, like, the show, like, your working environment looks like the set of The Nick.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, how do you give like intonation notes, and how do you go like, no, do it like this when they can't see half your face and you're yelling and you're muffling. It was very weird. But once you're in it, I'd like to hear what these guys say. Once you're in it, you're just sort of like in it.
Right. And Lauren, your show actually predicted the pandemic. Black Lady Sketch Show. In your first season, you were in person, but second season, you were on Zoom?
Second season, we wrote the season and finished the writer's room on Valentine's Day of 2020. We were about to start shooting like that second week of March and had a long break and then filmed from October to January of 2020. So we finished the writing in one world and started, filming it in a completely different one. And it was really interesting because, like you said, when you're, as someone, I like to work closely with actors, and it's comedy and stuff. And when you're in, a shield, 2 masks, also the headset, also, all this stuff, I found myself, playing almost a game to, if I had an actor, I was like, can you do this thing with your face? And they'd be like, I kind of get it because I'm, covered like this. And I'd go to another actor that didn't have a mask on and be like, can you do this thing with your face? They'd be like, yes. And they'd be like, okay, can you show that person what I'm trying to get them to do? And they'd be like, great, got it. So it was an interesting game of telephone sometimes that had to happen in that weird pandemic filming situation.
Prentice, how many seasons did you do? 2 seasons in the pandemic or 1?
1.
Just this past season, right?
Yes, just this past season. And I think the hardest, we were the only time we were nominated for an Emmy is there's no Emmy Awards.
Yes, right.
It's to the black people, we finally get here, motherfuckers, and then it's nah, y'all can't come. Exactly. So that was fun.
We'll give you your flowers in the alley, actually. Yeah.
Come to the back of the restaurant. But it was...
That was on purpose, you realize?
Oh, of course.
Okay, all right, I'm just saying.
That Trump. For us, it sucked to write the last season apart, right? Because we were all planning to be in person. We knew this was it. And in comedy, it's so much of stuff that makes into the script is a bit. Somebody's doing a bit in a room, and it becomes something somebody does in the show. And so those are the things that I feel we really, and pitching comedy and things over Zoom obviously is the worst, right? So you're just trying to I'm just so thankful that we had mostly all the same writers from the past 5 seasons, because otherwise I can't imagine trying to start up new comedy and getting to know each other in the middle of doing a show over Zoom. It's just the worst.
Yeah, because part of being a showrunner is the connection with the writers, knowing who does what they're saying. Paul, your show, did you guys write it before the pandemic? You shot it during the pandemic, right?
All we know is the pandemic.
Yeah, that's all you know.
That's all we know.
You're a complete pandemic baby,
right? We wrote and shot the show all during pandemic. So some of our writers, in some ways it was great because we were able to have writers in New York. Pat Regan is someone who lives in New York, and Joanna Kahlo at the time was living in Ojai. So we had people that were all over the place that could just be in the room, which was great, but we didn't know how tall they were. We hadn't seen how tall they were, so we all put our heights in the Zoom, which was really helpful.
Oh, that's good.
Some people have 6-foot energy, and they're not. It's really wild. I myself have 6'4" energy. I'm 6'1". So, but yeah, it was really wild to be on set with it because of, as everyone said, all of this PPE and all the craziness. I, for a while, thought the COVID team was obsessed with me. You want a photo? No, they just were put your mask down. Put your shield down. Because the shield, everything, it's just so crazy. But we were really blessed in having an amazing cast and people like Gene Smart who, normally I think it is you want to go and be can you make this face? But you don't need to do that with Gene because you're you did it better than I thought, So in that way, it was kind of okay.
Yeah, that's great. She's brilliant. Chris, your show was first on Comedy Central. Right, and that was all during normal times, right? Yeah. So now, the show you're doing on HBO Max, did you do that a while ago, or
no? We got shut down. So we were shooting.
Shut down.
We were shooting in Central Park on March 12th or 13th.
Yeah.
And we were shooting a big music video number with Molly Shannon's character.
That's hilarious.
And our character, our choreographer was like, "Okay, guys, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, guys, we have to get to the airports because it's not safe here. Let's go!" And smiles and on. And so you block shoot things. So we have like 6 or 7 scenes throughout the season that are shot in Central Park.
Right.
So if you ever watch it and you see a character in Central Park, that's when they're finding out. So yeah, we shot like 40% of our show all out of order before the pandemic, and then waited more than a year, and then shot the rest at the beginning of this year.
Oh my God.
And we have a very young kid in our show.
Right.
So when you watch, you don't need to sit too close to the TV. You could be making dinner in the other room during his scenes. You don't need to really look at his face and body and see if it matches and lines up. He aged. He was.
It's the other 3. Just add him to the other 2.
He was a young kid when we started, and then when we picked back up, he had just turned 18. So it was a lot of.
You have to match scenes and things.
And
like that,
we were like, surely there are like professional tips and tricks, but it really is just like talk higher and slouch. Like there's nothing better or more legit than that. It's just the dumb things. It was literally like make his cheeks rosy, and I was like, we're all professionals. That's all we got, and they're like, yeah, that's just what you do. So yeah, it was wild.
Guerrilla filmmaking, man, it's fun. It actually makes it fun. Yes, I want to talk about process with you guys because all of your shows are so different, and go to. Jeff, yours has the process from the beginning of Curb, it's always been a combination of improv and outlining, maybe? Is that the best way to describe it?
Yeah, I mean, Curb and Seinfeld are written the exact same way, which is take funny stories, put an outline together on a dry erase board, and try and weave them together. And honestly, the only difference is on Seinfeld, we spend a few days writing the script, and on Curb, we don't. Right. I mean, you have an outline, but you
sign me up for the Curb.
Yeah. But here's where it gets tough. Every scene, so you're shooting, every scene's a live rewrite. You are doing a live rewrite of every scene, and the nice thing about the show is,
Wait, every scene is a live rewrite.
Yeah, you're just because no one knows what anyone's going to say, and sometimes people don't have the full script, so. Basically, I'm in the makeup room, like whispering to people, like, "Hey, you may want to do this, you may want to do that," before the scenes. And also, Larry wants to be surprised. There are no rehearsals.
Wow, this is a crazy show, Jeff. This show is crazier than I even realized.
So there's the outline. Look, the outline is the important thing. The outline tells you why the stories are, what they're funny, what the people's angles are.
Yes.
Then you get very funny people. But look, Larry. Here's the thing. Larry. His POV of the world is that the world's out to get him, and that's how we make the show.
Right. Yeah.
So our rehearsals are simply blah blah blah, stand here, blah blah blah, stand there. No, don't waste your words, and then it just happens. And so in between takes, I'll whisper in people's ears, go, "Hey, try this, say this, don't do that, but try this," and because he wants to be continually surprised.
Right.
And so you get these things where you have a plan, and you already know the show works because the stories are funny. Right?
But are you worried? Your show should be called Insecure, not Prentice's show.
We're so stupid or crazy that we just know that it's gonna be funny. There are funny people here. We're gonna make it. It's going to happen, and it does.
Wow. It just shows you how brilliant everyone that makes that shows. I got to lurk. We were talking earlier. I got to lurk on the set once. I'm throwing out jokes and everything, and he's like, "Sure, I don't care. Why not?"
Yeah. No, it's let's try something. So the show gets written 3 times. It gets written once as an outline.
Okay.
And that's the hardest part. And then the fun part is the shoot. And then it gets written for the 3rd time in the edit room.
In the edit bay, right.
Where you have to. The shoot is all about getting as many choices, getting as many jokes in many different ways. And then at a certain point, Larry and I are sitting there on the couch. We have to pick one.
Right.
And figure out this is how the scene is going to act.
So a lot of your actual writing is done by you and Larry in the edit bay.
Yeah. I mean, the editing is not film editing. It's dialogue editing. It's show editing. Also, we plan. We put, we may have repetitive beats in different places because we're not sure where it's going to go. But to your point about everything was thrown up in a blender, this season during COVID, we started in November. There wasn't a vaccine or anything. We pushed all of our big crowd scenes to the end, to May, hoping that the weather would be better. So that means we carried 10 shows the entire way through of an improv show that's completely out of order, and you're trying to remember what was said or what we even like from that, and no one knows. It was insane.
I don't think the audience would have even cared if he had this huge jump cut that just didn't match. It would be like, whatever. That's Now, Laura, your show is interesting because you have both a narrative format and a sketch element. So how does that work in the writer's room? Are you thinking of those simultaneously or patching it together later? Or?
I mean, the narrative element, we definitely like set aside a period of time where we're like, okay, we're writing sketches, we're doing sketches, and then like these couple weeks are just those interstitial elements, and so they're written very differently because they don't really tie into the sketches by design or anything like that. So it really is like a whole separate thing where we just sit there and we break the season. We do all the things that you would do on a narrative show, which is kind of different for us because with the sketches, it's like every day you're writing a different sketch every day. Yeah. So it uses a different part of your brain for sure.
And do you make sure that certain sketches kind of match or in harmony with that thing, or it just doesn't matter?
It does not matter.
Wow,
and
really?
We don't shoot the show, like, we don't know what the episodes are, like, when we write the sketches or the show.
Right.
All that happens in the edit. And I really relate to what you said about, like, that writing process. The editors of our show who won an Emmy from editing the show from home, by the way. They edited over Zoom, basically, and are so good. But we determine the episode order after all the sketches are shot, after all the sketches are edited, and just sort of by, like, okay, what feels right rhythm-wise.
And Prentice, you said you have a lot of the same writers from the beginning. Has the process changed for you over the years? Do you guys have a set thing? Do you and Issa get together and think about the season first? How do you guys do it?
We pretty much have a set thing that we've been doing, which was Issa and I will sit before we meet with the writers. We'll like have brunch and just kind of talk about like what we're up to, what our friends are up to, just like about life, just kind of catching up and seeing like what tethers to our world, right? And then we kind of have a theme that's built on the season before, right? So that's a big thing. And then we'll just kind of talk, it's super blue sky. It's just like anything is possible at that point. And then we sort of meet with the writers, have like a retreat, and the more successful we've gotten, like the nicer the places become. And then we'll kind of tell them kind of what we're thinking, blah, blah, blah. But then really the process after that is kind of traditional, going in, kind of arcing out, what are the big moments. We always know, like, midway through there needs to be some sort of thrust to take us to the second half. And really, we started the show, we were like, hey, we'll send this writer off in a very, I don't know if that's traditional or not, but we'd send a writer off for a thing. And HBO came back, and you were around in this early part of the process for sure. And they were like, all the fun shit is happening at the end. This beginning shit sucks. But we were getting close to production, and it was like, oh shit, we gotta like take all the end of it and move it up. Yeah. But was like, we don't have any stories for the back. And they were like, y'all figure it out. And so
that was actually my note.
Well, it worked.
It actually was, yeah.
But it was right, you know what I mean? And so, but by proxy of that, we couldn't send writers off to write anymore. Right. So I had just come off of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, where we would Frankenstein scripts. We'd write it as a room. We'd say, you take 2 scenes, you take 3 scenes, and you weren't caring if like this tied into that. You were just like if the story tracks and there's some jokes, then we'll interweave it together all collectively. And so thank God I had just had that, because then I sort of brought that to Insecure. Like, let's just do it like this because we have to catch up. Yeah. And then that is how we just started writing the show. So every season now, Issa and I will take a room. Like, once we kind of broken out like the light beats of the story, we'll do like 2 separate rooms, and we'll break 2 at a time. Oh, okay. And it just helps us get through the stuff faster because Issa's in 90% of the scenes. Right. So we have to have it all written before we start filming, really. Yeah. So it just helps us. So we'll just like Frankenstein these scripts, and it's funny because people go, oh, I know you wrote that. And it's like, no, you don't know who wrote this joke.
It just has the name on it.
It just has the name on it at this point. Yeah, so that's really been our process for the last 5 years.
Yeah. Paul, your show, what I think I love and people love about it, Jean Smart, of course, but the character, her character, and God, I forgot the actress name, the writer.
Hannah Einbinder.
Hannah, who's so fantastic.
Yeah.
They're almost like the same character from different generations in some ways, Yeah. How big of an influence is writing for those characters as opposed to just thinking about stories that might seem like fun stories? Like, how strong are those characters in the room when you're coming up with stories?
We always write, I think, character first. Right. So we had, before we ever started the room, Jen Statsky, Lucia Agnello, and myself spent a really long time developing the backstory of Deborah Vance. And so a lot of the show is just, us unearthing different things from her past and exploring different ghosts from her past. So there are things that we know we want to explore, like the different ways in which these 2 women might view sexual assault. Right. For someone like Deborah Vance, who's 70, it was something that was like, well, yeah, you got groped, and then you went on stage, And for someone who's a Gen Z, it's obviously a much different thing. So we're always choosing the stories that we want to tell based on the lens of those characters. So
right,
it really
as opposed to just a strict serialization. You guys are really scooping out of that character well. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I have to tell you, I completely believe that she's Stepher Vance. I don't even remember Jean Smart anymore.
I know.
Right? Am I right? I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen her in Vegas. No, I haven't. She's made up. That's how I feel. Yeah.
I know. It is crazy. I mean, we made this character an amalgamation of like Elaine May and Lucille Ball and Elaine Boozler and Phyllis Diller and Joan Rivers, of course, and all these people. So to us, she was a very real thing. She was like this showbiz veteran thing, and so we wrote the character before we cast it, and we were like, who the hell is this going to be?
Yeah.
And it was something that for a while was really daunting to us, but because we wanted to make a show that was really dark and really grounded, we were like, who can do both really fun, like believably do stand-up, which is really hard to do.
That is one
to
of the
film
toughest
stand-up,
things, right?
yeah, especially when it's fake, when it's TV stand-up, it's really hard to do, and it's really hard to sell. So we needed someone who could do that, but also really deliver on the more dramatic, heartfelt moments. And when you look at the list of women who are over 65 that can do that, Jean is really at the top of it.
Yeah.
And we are so lucky that she said yes.
Yeah.
That she agreed. Yeah.
Cast is so important. Chris, I mean, you have the brilliant Molly Shannon, of course. I remember meeting Molly years ago before SNL, and she was doing improv here in LA. She did this sketch where she was crawling all over the stage. It was like, who is this person? How much does that help, having that kind of talent when you guys are writing the other two?
Oh, I mean, it's similar in that when we wrote the pilot, we didn't necessarily know that Molly Shannon was going to be in the show. We just sort of lucked out. I had made a movie with her a couple of years ago, and so we asked her if she would do it. But then, once you have like a second season of a show and you know you have your actors, it makes it so much easier to write because you can picture in the room how they're going to say it. And Molly Shannon was in the first season, but like I said, we didn't know we had her. So going into season 2, we were like, oh, let's make her character famous as well. Let's double down on this. We got her. And so, just the actors themselves give you ideas for storylines.
Right.
And Molly Shannon was particularly inspiring because she's not exactly like her character, but she's been in this industry for a long time, and she's still so goddamn excited to show up every day for work.
Yes,
she's always like, can you believe we get to do this? Or if she goes on like Seth Meyers, she's like, I'm going on Seth Meyers tonight. And I'm like, you've been on talk shows for 20 years. But she's just she's very excited and full of joy and very like grateful every day. And so there is a lot of overlap with her character, who is like newly famous and has her own talk show. Yeah. And so it just makes it that much easier to write because you can just it just flows out of you easier.
Yeah. Where did the idea come from? It's such an interesting way into a show. Like you set up this famous guy. It's not about him. It's about them. Like where did that spring from?
It was sort of like a Trojan horse idea where we kind of wanted to, Sarah Schneider, who's the co-creator of the show with me, we were at Saturday Night Live and we were trying to develop a show and we wanted to have our cake and eat it too. So we wanted to, when we were at SNL, we wrote a lot of pop culture parody stuff. Right. We wrote a lot of music videos with the female cast. And so we were like, we wish we could have a TV show where there was like music videos and kind of dumb, short, sketchy bits. But then we could also write a show that's like pulled from our lives and that could tell queer stories and stories that were Sarah and I related to the characters. So we wanted a very zany show that also felt grounded at its core. And so then we came up with the idea of these two 30-something siblings whose younger 13-year-old brother becomes famous overnight. So let us have our cake and eat it too. Right. And so every episode, the idea was, what is some dumb thing this little kid does that ruins the siblings' lives, or makes their older brother deal with his sexuality in a way that he wouldn't have otherwise, or makes the sister figure out her life in a way that she wouldn't have without him. So, it's fun to write because anytime it gets a little too serious, we can throw that kid in and give him a music video, or vice versa.
It's like from The Office. David Brent from The Office. When you're in an 11th season of a show, how do you say, where do the episodes come from at that point? In terms of how daunting is it?
Look at all these people. They come from these people. These people are terrible. These are documenting the shortcomings of the West Side of Los Angeles is an evergreen business. So, I mean, basically, every season's the last season.
Right.
When we're done with the season, there will never be another season, we're done. And I finally realized why, because Larry puts all the ideas that he likes into this season. Yeah. So when the season's done, he doesn't have any ideas he likes. And so why would he ever do another season? because he's the only person in the world who thinks he's never going to come up with another idea. But then he goes, we stop working, and he goes out, and he goes to a dinner party or this and that, and everything happens. The world happens again, and those are the stories. And it's wish fulfillment for Larry too. I think he actually said it best this season. You know, have to do that little blurb when you're announcing that you're coming on again, and he said he's coming back because he realized it was much more fun to play Larry David than it was to be Larry David. And that's how the show is. He'll come in. I went to this dinner party last night, and the host served tap water. Who serves tap water at a dinner party? I should have said something. Yeah. And I go, well,
that was so fun.
Well, real Larry didn't say anything, but TV Larry's going to say something. And that's the start. That's the start of an episode. It's just us sort of getting together and showing our awkward scars. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah, Carl Reiner talked about during the Dick Van Dyke Show. The writers just on Monday talked about what happened on the weekend at home. It's pretty much how the stories happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's out there. I mean, everybody's still. Until everyone's perfect and until you can walk out and not be ticked off by your fellow man, I think we're good.
Yes. Now, Laura, Black Lady Sketch Show, it's bizarre. I was trying to think of a word.
It is very bizarre.
And bizarre is the one word. Where the fuck do you guys get your ideas for the sketches? I mean, some sketches, I'm still not sure what happened. Mm-hmm. Like the whole... was it the backward sketch or the whole weird alien speak in the club thing?
Oh, Dance Spider?
Yes, exactly.
Yes. That was an alien stealing someone's dance moves.
Can you describe what that is?
It's a sketch that stars Quinta Brunson and Robin Thede. They're lesbians in the club. And
see, I missed that whole part.
Yeah.
This is how
Punky
confused I was.
Johnson is playing another lesbian in the club who is imitating all of Quinta's dance moves, and Quinta's getting more and more angry and frustrated, and they lock eyes, and the Punky disappears. And then Quinta's like, okay, that was weird, but let's keep going back to dancing.
Right.
And then she tries to dance to like Kaya, My Neck, My Back comes on, which you can't help but dance to that, right?
Yeah.
And she has no rhythm anymore. The alien just has taken her dance moves, taken her rhythm, taken it all, and had taken it back to the spaceship to impress her ex.
It sounds like the type of thing Larry David would have run into.
Seems pretty clear to me.
Where does that idea come from?
It comes from, and this is why I love the Black Lady Sketch Show room, because everyone is always on board. We have that because it's a bunch of black women from different places and different experiences, but we all have, we have the one shared thing, which is that we are all black women in this world. So somebody came in and was like, you know how you're in the club and somebody steals your dance move? And we're like, yes! And then it just goes from there.
That is amazing. I love it. Prentice, what are the tough parts? I mean, Larry David doesn't have to worry about this curve, but you're actually winding down a show. Like, how does that change the writing process, knowing that you're coming towards the end?
It was hard. I mean, this one, obviously, people have a lot of strong opinions about finales on HBO. And so... You
mean like Black Twitter? Or Sopranos? Another one?
Yeah. And so it was, look, I mean, you're wanting to, be authentic to what the show is, right? But you're also, want people to say, hey, I've been watching this show for, 5 seasons. You want people to... It's such a tough thing to land. And one of our... So we kept writing these endings and it just, none of it felt real. And one of our EPs, Amy Aniobi, was like, we got to stop, want to take the pressure off. As long as we don't put, a water bottle in the finale, I think we're, good. That doesn't fit. But she was just like, look, these characters' lives aren't ending. We're just going to, we're just jumping off the plane. But, in this world, their stories would continue, right? Yeah. So it's just we're getting off. So what she said, because we said, how do we land a plane? But when she said it, it was oh, that's really, it's just better, right? It's if we were writing a season 6, how would we end season 5? And that was oh, well, that's interesting, right? And so...
I'm thinking about Black Twitter right now when you said that.
Yeah, it might be hot. But it just freed up all the, okay, we don't have to, worry of, what the perfect thing is. It's let's just write to that, and it'll kind of be what it'll be.
Right.
Yeah.
Paul, I'm impressed. Both you and Prentice direct episodes, too. You wear so many hats on your show. So can you talk about the difficulty when you're juggling different positions, going from acting and... then you're going to direct and writing. How does you want to just talk a little bit about the difficulties, or maybe you enjoy all that?
I mean, I do. I think as a control freak, I do.
Yes, I was going to say.
It's one of the things that it's a nice thing for someone who is very exacting to get to do. But it's also it is I will say I have acted a lot more than I've directed, and I've written a lot more than I've directed, and I do think directing is the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
It's so difficult, partly because, you're managing a whole company of people, and there's a whole, group that you have to also be looking ahead at the same time that you're looking at the scene, and if you're acting in that episode, I don't know how people do it. I really don't know how people do it because I'm like, I need to look at the playback.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm like, how do people do this normally?
Yeah.
But so I think I don't know that I do it that well, but I think it's a lot more fun to act. I'll say that. I mean, that might not answer your question. It might be.
Well,
I'll
say that your show is very cinematic, and does any of the visual ideas seep into the writers' room? Like, do they come first sometimes? Against, I was going to do about somebody falling off a cliff or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I think both, Jen Statsky, Lucia Aniello, and I think write visually, and there's a lot of description in action of what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But especially Lucia, who directed the pilot and set the visual language for the show.
By the way, it's fantastic. The visual language she said is amazing.
It's all her. She deserves all the props for that. But she, she really, I think she loves film and she studied film, and I think she is someone who is like, comedy can also be beautiful. I think like it's reserved for hour-longs and dramas, but why not make this gritty place like Las Vegas, which you see a lot in cinema? Let's show like both the high and the low, the dirty underside, and the fabulous mansion that this woman lives in, and let's make this comedy also be a world you want to escape to. And it happened to, I think, work out quite well that it honestly was on during the pandemic, because it did feel, I think, sumptuous and fun and aspirational, and you got to just escape to it. But that was really something that she said that then I got to copy.
Yeah.
So coming after her as a director was really great, because I was like, okay, we're going to do it like that. We're going to do it like that.
I feel like your show is the exact universe opposite of Tiger King. Like, that's what it is.
Yeah.
The exact universe opposite.
And I think it's so similar. So that's interesting.
All the similarities.
Yeah,
and there's tigers in Vegas.
Absolutely.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know where Siegfried and Roy's are now that they've gone to the big pet land in the sky, whatever it is. So, yeah.
Oh man, Chris, has there been a difference? You start on Comedy Central, they have a certain aesthetic and everything. Is there a difference from the writing standpoint of being at HBO now? Do you feel like you want to be a little bit of a different show or that type of thing?
Let's fuck each other. We were lucky.
The siblings.
They all just fuck each other. I don't care who's related to.
That's very premium. That's incest is very premium.
There you go. Spoiler alert, right there.
I don't care who's related.
That's hilarious.
It's interesting because we didn't really actually have many rules at Comedy Central. They just let us do whatever we want. It was more just like a time constraint. Like I think the episodes are 7 minutes? No. No, but it's like 21 minutes. It's like very short and tight. But we actually wrote season 2 for Comedy Central. And we're shooting, and then got shut down during the pandemic, and then HBO Max started existing. You know what I mean? So then we went over there. So season 2 was written thinking
started existing.
No, but I mean, like then it started, and then we went over there. So we wrote season 2 thinking it was going to be on Comedy Central.
Right.
So writing season 3 now we know, but if anything, it just gave us breathing room. Like the episodes could be longer, because that's one of the things we always care about in the writers' room. Is you were saying this too. Like we like it. We want it to be funny. We want it to be a hard comedy. We like to kind of push and see how broad we can make some moments, but we really want it to be grounded, and it's really about this family, and it's really about these relationships. And so if you can't land a plane at the end of every episode, and it doesn't feel like these are real people going through something, and you don't have like moments of quiet, then you get to the end of the episode and you're like, what was that even? Like I laughed a bunch, but I feel sort of empty. So we wanted all the episodes, without being preachy, we wanted every episode to feel like it was about something, or it had something to say, or their characters grew in some way where if this episode didn't exist, the next episode wouldn't work. So being able to be on HBO Max and have more time, it was just very helpful. So the characters didn't feel like sketch characters. They felt like real people,
I feel like everyone will be fucking by your answer.
Oh no, we're starting the room now, so I'm like horny, I'm ready, and they fuck. Brother, sister.
That's a bad answer. That's what I hear in my ears.
Yeah, I really could have stopped right there.
Oh man, I want to ask about the Zoom process in particular. Now, Jeff, has that affected your show at all, or no?
Well, I mean, for Curb, it's Larry and I sitting in a room. So,
Okay, right.
And so, we used to sit in a room, and during the pandemic, we all went to our houses. So it was just he and I on FaceTime. And it had a very familiar ritual, which we would each get on FaceTime, and he would grouse about why outlets have to be down on the ground, and why can't we have shoulder-level outlets? Why do we have to dig around like a raccoon to plug things in? And you go, fuck it. And then we talk, and then every day around 2:30 or 3 in the middle of a sentence, call, just gone. And I go, oh, he ran out of power. And this is one of the things I'll say about Larry, which is a tremendous compliment. That man is the same person at 3% that he is at 78%. I would be a mess. I would be crawling out of my skin if I thought he just goes until it stops, and then we were done for the day.
What is he, an iPhone? I'm trying to picture what you mean by 3% and 78%.
Yeah, it's just the percent. If you're,
how much energy he has left?
No, how much your phone has.
Oh, okay.
If your phone is dying, I'm a different human being.
Right.
I'm like a rabid, well, I can't. But he doesn't care. So it's done. The world shuts off and he goes into something else. So that was Dave. The other show I did was all on Zoom, and that was a writer's room on Zoom, as you were talking, is a very difficult experience.
What's the hardest part?
The hardest part is that
you go.
What?
No, you go. No, you go.
He start. You finish.
Oh, you go.
That's exactly right.
Hardest part.
It's all. Instead of building, there's so much more lateral movement. Because it's just these Hollywood squares are all talking. It's like, so it's this or this or this or this or this. No one I don't know, there's something for me, at least when you're at the dry erase, where you just go and you can start actually tactile putting this stuff in. People will all build it together. I felt like it just took a lot longer.
Paul, hardest part about working on Zoom, because you guys did all of it, right? On Zoom?
Yeah, all of it on Zoom.
What's the toughest part?
It is actually that, truly the overtalk thing of Zoom, and when you laugh, then other people's sound goes out. Honestly, it's that, especially in a comedy room, making other people laugh, trying to surprise people and tickle them is such a clear target for us for what we're trying to write. So when it's awkward and you're like, please don't laugh, because then we can't hear each other. You know what I mean? It becomes, it's like, just everyone just nod, just do this, if we like it. It makes it awkward.
I feel like you have good tricks for writers.
Yeah, this means no. This means no, that's problematic. And this means really funny. I think it's that, and I don't know. There's something about the energy of the room. I will say, we actually weirdly like Miro. Wow, product placement. I'm not an investor, but we weirdly like being able to do that board and then being able to rearrange things, and you know what I mean. Sometimes the writing of it.
Yeah. I'm using Zoom like Xerox,
Right.
The same way.
Yeah, but so there are pros and cons, and again, we had people from all over the country in our room, so that was a really great thing.
That's a good plus.
Yeah, it was a huge plus for us, and we were also able to audition and consider people that were in other countries. Even it was really in that way. It was like, oh, you don't have to go into a casting. All the callbacks, the playing field is very equal, because when we're casting people, no one's in person, so it's not like, oh, that person really had a big leg up.
Yeah.
So that was another advantage.
It kind of takes advantage of writers' natural laziness, I think.
100%.
100%.
Yeah. We come completely soaking wet every day. We're like, all right, let's do it. Yeah, right out of the shower.
Prentice, do you have any advice for the younger writers in a room, in a Zoom situation? Because in a room, I think sometimes they can maybe be seen and heard from a little bit more. Any advice for, I don't know, you can't just interrupt people and that kind of stuff. What do you think?
I think...
Because I think it's going to be here for a while.
I think it's so far for sure.
Yeah,
and we had one new writer, and he knew some people on the show just kind of personally. And I thought the way he did, I thought he did a lot of things smart. One, he didn't come in trying to be a presence, right? Because that's awkward and weird, right? He came in, just let me get to know... These people have been together for a while, so let me just kind of find my space, as opposed to being very eager to prove himself. And then I thought he played it smart too, where he would just contribute as it felt right, and then just kind of got into. It's like just getting into the pool, right? Let me just feel the temperature and get warmer and warmer and warmer. And I thought that was the right way to do it, because again, one, he didn't know anybody, and two, it's hard to interrupt, especially even because even the hardest thing on Zoom is people pitch and it builds, right? To everybody's point, but in Zoom it's like, oh, I want to talk about a topic that was, I'm waiting my turn and like line, I'm the 8th person up. It's like, hey, an hour ago we were talking about this thing that you would just never do in a room, but you're just like, so it's like you go, and by the time you look up, you're like, that's the day, right? And so I thought he just played it really smart in terms of like not trying to do too much. Let me just kind of get the lay of the land and just eat, because it's just an awkward platform. It's an awkward way to interact. It's certainly an awkward way to do comedy. And so I would just say, don't try to do too much too fast. Yeah.
Lauren, is it harder to work a certain number of hours in that situation? Do you feel like, man, because for me, 2 hours, good luck after that.
Yeah, it definitely is weird because so much of being in a writer's room is like your brain is operating at like the top, you know, ideally it's at the top of its like function and capacity.
Yeah.
And
Ideally.
And you know, there are some days that it's not, but usually you're like on your, you know, you're like up front, like you're leaning in, you're like really excited and doing that and staring at the screen is like so difficult because it's easy to just like let your focus trail off. I'm lucky that I when we were doing some rewrites over Zoom for the sketch show, that I was living in my apartment building, that like someone was routinely pulling the fire alarm. So like I had to like evacuate my building mid-session all the time, and it was like a nice way to take a break. It was like that was a way to rest my eyes. It was sensory overload for the ears, but the eyes were good. So it definitely like at that 3-hour mark, like you just have to take a break, like have to.
You're like, who keeps doing this?
Yeah, it's me.
Oh man, Chris, what is the hardest thing for you in that Zoom situation? It would seem you guys are laughing all the time. You know, it'd be hard.
Well, we lucked out. We didn't write over Zoom at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we were already shooting, so we just kind of sat motionless in our rooms for a year and waited to shoot in. So it was like good and bad, but
right.
Yeah, we didn't experience a Zoom room, and I think our next room is going to be in person. So I feel lucky.
Yeah.
Knock on wood about that.
Do you guys think it's going to be around for a long time?
I don't know.
There are ways. I mean, just doing 2 different shows this year. It all depends on the company. Disney like wanted to have remote editing. For HBO, for Curb, we were in the edit room, and we handled the edit room the same way you'd handle production. Everyone gets tested all the time, and so everyone feels confident. And that can be done. It's just resources.
Yeah.
So it's up to, you know, if you can make a choice and your company, the production company, whoever stands behind you, there's no reason. The resources determine your safety. So if they're willing to spend a little bit of resources, you can have the room you want to have.
As anybody can answer this, as a showrunner, which part of the process would you like to stay maybe remote, and which parts do you feel like, man, we really got to be there in person?
Well, I was going to say, I prefer everything in person just because, especially on a comedy, it's like you want to have fun. You know what I mean? Like, this is a fun job, and it can be very fun. And so it's very weird when you're like, feel like you're working in a hospital and also making comedy, like you guys were saying. But the one part we did do remote was editing, and that one worked pretty well. Like, I still would rather be in person with the editor because they're my friends, and I'd rather hang out in real life. But that one was fairly seamless-ish to me. And because, like you said, like Paula said, you can just like show up soaking wet and be like, "Good morning, I've been up for hours," but you both just woke up and you don't have to drive and commute, and you can still work, and the technology was there. That I thought it was okay.
Also, the way we did it, we had our editors had cameras facing them, so we weren't like breathing down their neck, you know, and like looking at the back of their head, so we could actually connect with them weirdly even more.
That's true, because you're usually behind their backs.
Yeah, you're like behind them in a dark room on a couch, you know, very scary. But so I liked I liked doing that, and I think they did too, because they also got to just do it from home, which also meant it was much more flexible. They were like, "Oh, my daughter needs to do something. Can we jump on?"
I would say no. She can't. Whatever she needs, she can't.
And that's how we differ. We would say yes. We would say you can do that.
You have a daughter? No, we don't have a daughter.
You know, one thing I wanted to ask you guys, and Jeff, this may not pertain to you, although maybe on Dave, I think it's pertaining to all writers at any point, you know, even if you're not running a show, it's taking notes. You know, sometimes it may be from the showrunner. Usually, you know, for you guys, it's from network or studio or whatever. I wanted to ask this question. How do you deal with notes that you just disagree with? Like, it's not a small disagreement, it may be a big one. How do you deal with that, and what's the best advice you can give for that? And whoever wants to answer that first.
Well, I'll do it quickly. I always say there's nothing wrong with notes as long as you don't have to take them. Oh, that's it. That's a good note. That's a bad note.
Well, that's what I mean on Curb. You guys aren't taking notes.
By the way, the other ones too. It's like you just the best trick to do is just say, you know what, I totally, like if they want A, they keep going A, and you go, I totally agree with you about A, so that's why B, 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 and you've given them the credit for their note. You said, I totally agree with it, and then you're just doing something else. And I always try that one first.
Right.
Because they just go, all right. But a lot of times with, there's always a note behind the note, I find.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't, it's like children or babies that can't express, right? They're either hungry or they poop their pants or they're thirsty or whatever. Like there's a problem somewhere, so you just got to figure out what it is.
It's probably poop the pants.
It's probably pooping the pants. Certain networks, it's definitely pooping pants. But yeah, you're just like, okay, I don't agree with that. We're not doing that. But like, there's clearly must be a problem structurally somewhere here that you're having, you're feeling something. So then it's your job to figure out what it really is.
A lot of it is psychoanalysis, right? You really have to listen in and see what's your real problem. What do you really feel?
And if it's a comedy note, you just go, no.
Yeah.
And if you're like, that's not funny, we're not doing that, this is funnier.
Now, how about you, Lauren? Because when you have a new show, it's very difficult because, of course, people are going to have notes. You know, how do you deal with it with a new show?
I am very much a people pleaser, so my impulse is always be like, do it. Yes, 100% do it. Even if the two notes are in conflict with each other, I'm still gonna do it. And that I had to like kind of break myself of that because that was like me still being like a baby writer vibe almost. Where it was like, okay, like just do it. But like Jeff said, like I'm like, there's something that is not right. There's a reason why they feel that way. This person is very smart, very capable, knows television, obviously.
Right.
There's a reason why it's not working. So let me look for the thing, and maybe it's like from the episode prior, or from the piece prior, or from the shot prior, or after. Like there is a reason, so I'll find a way to make it better no matter what. So there's an opportunity to make it better. Might not be that exact thing, but there is an opportunity to make it better in some way.
Prentice, you worked at network, you know, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and then, you know, premium cable. Is there a different way in how you handled notes in those situations?
Oh, fuck yeah. I mean, like, you know, I came from network, so it was basically like, you know, the studio and the network, and those rarely agree either, right? And so you're like, but the studio's saying this, but the network, it's like, okay. But so there it's just sort of very much like, do this, do this, do this. And so that was sort of the world I was coming out of. And then going into HBO where things were a conversation, right? Which is like, here's our thought, you know, what do you think? Or is this setting up something? And it's always a no behind the no. And I think, you know, very quickly you got to see, oh, these are smart people. So it's not adversarial. It's more just like, here's what we're thinking. And sometimes we would try, obviously we would always try what they were doing, but sometimes it would be, well, let's see how that take plays out. Or here's why we're doing this take is because what you don't know maybe is like episode 3, we want to play this a little bit more subdued for that. And oftentimes it would just be like, oh, okay, we like forgot about that, or you're right, or whatever. But it was never, I could say at least for here, we very rarely had a hard line of that. But
especially once you're going and you're
especially once you're going, it's just it's all a relationship, right? It's all trust. And I think in the network world, I think at least I felt because there's always such a turnover that it's like you don't. It's like, oh, I'm trying to like give you a note so I can justify almost my job. I have to like put something in the thing because there's a whole other game that you don't know that's being played. Whereas Amy Gravitt's been at HBO forever, so she's not. I'm just like here to make cool shit. You know what I mean? So I think that was the biggest difference.
Yeah, and Paul, you have a 3-headed monster on your show, showrunner.
Yeah.
That's got to help when dealing with notes in those kind of situations. I don't know if you've had to deal with that a lot in your first season. Or...
yeah, not one note. But
they haven't reached you, right?
Jen and Lucia take care of them. I don't hear them because I scream. No, it's really good to have 3 of us because there is usually we're in sync about everything, and that usually tells us what our North Star is. And if we're out of sync, it's 3 people, so it's a vote. It's 2 versus 1. So it makes it very simple. But I was going to say that 2 things. One thing, in terms of it being like a conversation with a network, I find that so helpful. We had a network executive on Broad City who used to deliver all notes with a question mark at the end, and it was unbelievable because it was so good to receive because you were like, let's think about that also, and I think you look for the note behind the note. And something else that we just started doing, which I have found really helpful, in looking for what the note is behind the note or in trying other things that might sort of satisfy what it is they're looking for, we actually respond to every single note. So we'll be like, we tried this thing, it didn't work this way, but we did this thing. And we stole it. Soderbergh has a book about making the Nick, and he has all of his emails with a network. And it is fascinating because he responds to every single note, which we didn't used to do. You know, we'd be like, here's the new cut, or here's the new script. But now we're like, great thought, we're going to do that. This thought we think maybe this is what you're getting at, so we're trying this. This thought we tried, but it didn't work. You know, so we now do that, and I find it, in a way, it also validates the things that they're feeling because they have thoughts, and they are usually smart people. And so it's been a really nice thing to create a dialogue with those executives.
I feel like more people are moving into that. Like, I think, like, just having meetings around, like, before I left HBO, just meeting other, not just streamers, but, like, networks, I think are kind of realizing, oh, we're losing audiences, right? And so, and I think it's also the way they probably want to make shows, too, which is, it's not this sort of, like, hard and fast. Obviously, some places are still like that, but I do find more just networks are even kind of understanding that, like, hammer on the head is just, like, not the way anymore.
Not ideal. Yeah, so many of the places have really let people who have a vision do their vision. I've always admired that HBO, their notes are usually about it being an HBO show.
Yes.
You know, which I think is fair. It's like, oh, okay, this is either that or it's not. It's good. Chris, have you and Susan come up with any tricks or anything?
For notes?
Yeah.
I kind of agree with what everyone here is saying, where it's like it always gives you something to think about. When we respond to every note, too, even if we're not taking it, we explain why. Or, yeah, it's interesting. It's like not adversarial, like you're saying. It's like they're on your team, you're on their team. We're all trying to make a good show together. And so even if we don't take one specific note, it makes us think about something else. Or oftentimes we'll be like, wait, what? And then you'll watch the episode back, or even a week later, you'll be like, huh, this note, I actually am feeling it now that you put it in my brain. Yeah, so I don't know, we feel like we've been really lucky, too.
Yeah,
it feels very collaborative and easy.
And one thing I feel like, at least personally, and I don't want to speak for everybody, I feel like at HBO, the notes are really informed, and because they buy a show that they believe in, it's not like places that are like, okay, but let's add a sister. You know what I mean? Where it's like, we're going to try and create another show
because...
Adding a
whole sister.
Yeah, we need a sister. We need a sister. We need her bad. You know,
when we were selling our show, one network wanted to buy it, and they said, we like this, we want to buy it. We'd love to see a rewrite where it doesn't, not even every scene has to be funny. I think I would just like if the characters could just like hug every scene, like somebody's hugging. They really wanted more hugging, physically hugging in every scene.
Okay,
and
well,
not
your new
every
season
scene
with
had
incest
to be
is
funny.
going to be good. Yeah,
you want them to hug. What if they fuck?
I used to get notes sometimes. So, what's the other character? What's the wife doing? Right? I'm like, she's a fictional character. She's not doing anything. If I write her doing something, then she's doing something. But she currently is not doing a thing. Those would always confuse me. What is she doing during this thing? Nothing. She doesn't exist. Sorry.
I'm not at liberty to say. She has a private life. Okay.
Like, I don't understand your question, but we didn't put cameras in a house and we're spying on these people. I was way too logical when I would address notes. Well, I think we have time for, I think we're going to take some questions from the audience, I think. We're going to do that. Oh, we have lights. So why don't we take a few questions if you have for our very talented showrunner writers here. Anyone? Do we have a microphone there, or are people just going to yell it? Raise your hand. Yeah, gentleman right here from Morehouse. Yeah.
So in some cases, you guys are a little bit further into your shows, and in some cases, you're a season or two in. When you're looking at new writers, you're looking to bring people in the room. What is it that sticks out to you in terms of their writing when you're staffing your shows, from especially the lower level, because most people are coming in as staff writers, story editors, but perhaps even at the higher level if you have to replace someone or someone's leaving. So to reiterate the question, what are you specifically looking at when you're looking for people to come into?
Could everyone hear that question? Okay, great. Who wants to answer the answer?
I will start because I think it's, as someone who has been on both sides of the hiring process, I used to think that people wanted a writer that would like slot in perfectly into the room, like that was like, would already mind meld with the existing room. But what I look for is someone who looks at the world so differently from how I see it, and someone whose POV is so specific and unique. I'm like, how the fuck do you think that? Please come work here. Like, I love that, because that is, the worst thing is when everybody's like, yes, I feel the same way. Like, that is like the death of a room to me, and it's not as fun. So I look for somebody who just has a really specific showcase of their specific worldview that makes them the only person that could be in that seat.
Yeah, I for sure echo that. I think when we were putting the room together for Insecure, obviously I was getting a bunch of writers who were like, she's just like Issa. And I was like, I don't need any writers that are just like Issa. I have Issa. I want a voice that's like so opposite Issa. And I think specifically for, obviously if somebody's more experienced, you're looking for the writing to reflect that, right? But I think, at least for me, what I was looking for in younger writers was just like, I was just looking for what's one thing in this script that's amazing. It might be the hardest funny thing, or it might be you're great with character, or you're just weird and like that, or you're dark and like that's the one thing. Like maybe the story doesn't make sense and maybe this is off, but I was always looking for just what's one thing in the script that I could just be like, great, and we can like grow that. Because it's like you're just young, you just don't know certain things, and so. But I was always looking for what's the one spark in the script, and no matter what that spark was, if that was special and unique.
It's really good advice. Sometimes young writers get concerned about perfecting like the script or story, which is nothing wrong with. But sometimes you want to think about more expressing what your voice is and focus on that, as a primary thing moving that. So.
I think that's right for us. When we were reading scripts, it was really about the distinctness of the voice and how unique that script was in terms of its voice. Even if the story was maybe not a story that was completely novel, it was something that we're looking for the voice. And also, I think, exactly right, it's like you look for experiences, lived experiences, points of view that are different than your own. But also, we were looking for people that were similar to, Deborah Vance, again, is a 70-year-old character. So we wanted to have that voice in the room. And so we had Janice Hirsch the first season as a consulting producer, who, she's over 60 and has worked in a million rooms from Murphy Brown to you name it. Yeah. And so it was it's also filling the slots that help elevate the characters you're trying to authentically portray.
Awesome. All right, who else? Yes, in the back there.
Hi.
Sure, go ahead.
So I was curious if each of one of you could tell me what you think your superpower is as a writer.
What is your superpower as a writer, you want to know from everyone?
From everyone, yeah.
Chris.
I got this one.
Yeah.
Now you have to, though.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I thought it was just finding the sweet spot in the room and shutting up. And just... Well, Chris?
No, I don't know. Somebody else go.
Chris is like, I would have had all this time to think about it. What is it, Chris? Come on, put you on the spot. What's your secret? What's your superpower? Not secret, but just your superpower, right?
His character's fucking.
What did you say? Yeah. I don't know. Oh God, somebody else go. You go.
The ability to express yourself.
Go, you go. You're gonna say me? What's your superpower? Go.
Oh, I was gonna say yours, but okay, I'll say mine.
Okay, say mine.
No, I'm gonna just say mine. I think because I come from performance and improv and sketch and all of that, the thing that I like to do the best, I don't know if it's a superpower, is dialogue, is sort of improvising in the voice of the character. So that's what I like.
Okay, actually, me too. Yes. Well, I was gonna say the same thing, but I was gonna add a sad, queer little touch to it.
Oh, good.
Which is, I feel like I grew up, sometimes the gay boy is the one that's like not talking in the circle, but sitting outside it being like, interesting. You know what I mean? So I feel like I have a lifetime of sitting sort of outside the experience and like knowing how people talk and hearing how people talk. So maybe dialogue, maybe an ear for dialogue. I guess maybe that's my absolute superpower.
Very good. I think being funny is one of them too. I think so. Mine is figuring out what something is about. I think is zero. I'm always challenging writers. I like to narrow it down to one sentence, maybe 2 words if I can, but it's always that. What is this thing about? Once I know that, then I feel like I can write something.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I need to wrap my head around that. I don't know if I think actually something that I do think about. I think about like certain ways that you grow up inform that. Like I don't know what my superpower as a writer, but I think as a showrunner, I think I come from a family of alcoholics, and so a lot of it is like always wanting people to play well together.
Just saying your superpower is hiding.
Yes. Stay the fuck out the way. But I think
he's invisible. What happened to Prentice? He vanished.
Just hiding behind the piano. But I think that
it's an actual superpower. Is what you have.
Well, I always want things to be okay.
Yeah.
And so I think as a showrunner, I always want to make sure people I'm listening to everybody, and I want to okay, what are you saying? And so I think that weird growing up thing has skewed in a productive way to want to hear everybody and make sure everybody feels heard that we're all working together to, like, you know, to move in the same direction.
It's a great quality because as a showrunner, of course, it's not just the writer's room. You know, you're dealing with actors. You know, some people are very difficult to deal with. But I think for the most part, if people feel like they're being heard, it's very good. Laura?
I think similar to what Chris said with the
first thing Chris was saying, or the second?
Yes, about the fucking. The queer asterisk and then the black asterisk is that, like, I spent most of my life as a young child, like a black kid in a mostly white school, or, you know, a young kid with older kids or whatever. And so much of my life, like, I ask my wife sometimes when I leave the house, like, what personality should I put on for this event? What's going on there? Like, who else is gonna be there? Who am I gonna be? Because I spent so much of my life trying to fit in and be unnoticeable, so I can put myself very easily in the mindset of a character.
That's a great trait.
And so I'm like, okay, I can easily identify with this person. I know what's gonna come out of their mouth and how they feel about the world because I've had to put myself in situations like that so many times as a small black girl.
Yeah. And Jeff, besides impressions of Larry David, what would be your...
I mean, I guess one of the things Paul was saying, the most fun thing is being on set, and all these setup lines are just popping out of people, and you're like, this, and when I write and direct, so it's covering like a live action comedy sporting event. And you're shouting and stuff, they're shouting and stuff, and that's the most fun thing for me, because someone says this, and sometimes I have to wait a second, because like that's why Larry's doing it too. Yeah. That's why it's fun for him. So sometimes I'm like, oh, I jumped in. He goes, I was gonna do that, and it's like so. And then once I've done it, it's like, well, that's already been done. So let's do another one. So, but I think that is the most fun thing. The strength I think I have that is different than some people. I actually learned from Larry, which is comedy structure, and it's not. I'm not talking about normal structure. Sure. I'm talking about like being able to take all of these disparate elements and make something at the end that has a really funny, awesome bow at the end, like just knowing how to build that stuff up and that there's no dead space and that the story's always moving and it's intersecting and it's doing that at the end in a cool way. That's awesome. And that's a skill too. I mean, it's like I learned it, but I love doing it. So, and it's, I mean, that's all the shows I do are like that.
Yeah, it's a talent too. I mean, what Larry did in Seinfeld, he created a new kind of puzzle, you know, with that show of how those scenes work together, you know.
By the way, what you were talking about, like, oh, that's what HBO was saying, like, hey, that's move all that stuff up to the front. Every episode of Seinfeld, you know, you sat in your own room, there was no room, and you had this independent study, and so, like, Alec Berg, my writing partner, and I, we would, you know, we'd pitch our ideas, and then we'd sit there and on the dry erase board, and here's the whole show, and Larry would come in, and he'd go, yeah, that's your first act.
Yes.
And you're like,
right.
No, that can't be what's the rest then?
Yes, it is.
There's so much more.
Yeah.
But you learn how to tell a story in a super efficient way, because you can't tell 4 parallel stories in 22 minutes, 24 minutes. They have to intersect. Yeah, and they're better when they intersect.
Yeah, one of the best things I think you do as a writer is paint yourself in a corner that you have no idea how you're going to get out of. It's one of the funnest things you can do. Try it. Everybody do it right now. No. All right. Do we have anything else? Is that it? We'll do one more? Okay, one more. We got to wrap up. But we're just, okay, right here this way. Okay, I got the light. I'm not doing stand-up, you guys. Okay, well, how about one answer? How about that?
Are you calling on me?
Yeah, I'm calling you. Yes, go for it.
So you're all wildly successful. If you had one piece of advice to give all of us to survive in this industry, what would it be?
One piece of advice, real quick, like 2 words. Chris, you're gonna go last. Jeff.
Read your scripts out loud before you turn them in.
Ooh, nice. I like that. Wow.
Be the person that you would want to work with and hire.
Nice.
Serve the showrunner.
Oh. Very nice.
Well, I mean,
I love that.
No, but I feel like a lot of writers come in there wanting to do their thing. Like, I didn't get my jokes in. It's like, your job isn't to get jokes in. Your job is to be in service of pitching jokes. How many of those get in is not your decision, right? Yes. So I think people measure it by how much gets in the script, as opposed to, hey, I'm just here to play. I'm just here to offer you whatever I think you might need. But if you don't want it, it's cool too.
Yeah. I would say, don't worry about being the smartest person. Just be an athlete of the heart.
I had to follow that. Okay. I would say be flexible and kind to the people that you work with. Be willing to throw things away in the spirit of creative collaboration, because in the end, it's much more fun to do it that way.
And this isn't about being in a room, but just in general, when you're writing, I would say always just write what you want to write, not what you think you're supposed to write. You know what I mean? Like some generic thing that you think is supposed to, like someone will want, just write. Like it's all about point of view, so just write what you want.
How about a nice round of applause for everybody? Thank you so much for being here. You guys have been great. Thank you so much. Good luck with all of your writing and all of your jobs.